So it is afternoon now. Good afternoon, Chair Ronan, President Walton, and committee members. Nice to see everyone. I have about 2 hours of material here, but since I was told by Chair Ronan that I need to cut it down, I'll make it about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
And I want to say, too, that I've got my team here. They're super knowledgeable. They put together this, and I may be referring to them to give more detailed answers if you have questions, which I'm sure you will. So I just want to start by saying that I'm going to give an overview of our total budget, and I'm going to go over some of our key initiatives and investments, and then I'm going to talk about staffing, and I know that's been a theme for you today. So our overall budget is $676 million in year one, and it drops down slightly to $635 million in year two, and that's due to the end of some one-time state funding. The budget remains relatively stable from last year, while increasing staffing and investing in service expansion. So with ongoing Prop C funding, HSH's budget has more than tripled since the first year of the department. Our staffing resources, however, have not kept up with the pace of that growth. I'll run through the highlights of significant new investments in this budget, and then I'll go into some of the other things. So over the last 2 years, the city has leased or acquired over 2,500 new units of permanent housing, the largest expansion in 20 years. The proposed budget focuses on ensuring equity across the portfolio by investing $67.4 million into our existing housing programs. First, we are investing in wage equity to support provider staff and retention. This includes $3 million annually for a $28 per hour case management base and $12 million annually for frontline property management staff like desk clerks, janitors, and maintenance staff. Second, we propose raising case management levels to improve services for clients and to reduce stress on overburdened provider staff. Through a $32.2 million investment, we will lower the case manager to client ratios to 1 to 20 for families and transitional age youth, and to bring service level closer to 1 to 25 for adults. And then third, we'll invest $5 million in one-time capital improvements for repairs and Wi-Fi in existing buildings. In addition to investments in PSH equity, we're also proposing to expand our housing portfolio. This includes opening and operating the 6 recently acquired permanent supportive housing sites and implementing nearly 1,800 ongoing rental subsidies, an expansion of nearly 300. This budget also proposes expanding our portfolio by adding approximately 725 new units of permanent supportive housing for adults, transitional age youth, and families. And then in addition to those housing investments, HSH has developed a plan in partnership with the Office of Transgender Initiatives in the community to provide permanent exits from homelessness for transgender and gender nonconforming residents who face significant barriers to housing. This plan includes allocating 150 scattered site PSH slots for transgender and gender nonconforming people, acquiring and operating 50 to 80 units of permanent supportive housing for youth, and investing $3 million annually to fund short-term and shallow subsidies and to provide flexible financial assistance. This initiative is a key part of HSH's equity strategy and advances our goal of addressing homelessness for some of the residents most at risk of homelessness. And then we have some new proposed shelter investments. The budget includes significant investments in new shelter programs by adding nearly 500 new beds, including $7 million to launch a new cabin community for up to 70 guests, $25 million in anticipated state funds to operate 410 beds of non- and semi-congregate shelter at the Baldwin and at 7-Eleven Post. And then 4 dedicated HSH staff positions to improve management and monitoring of the shelter system, including an ADA coordinator to oversee accessibility at over 20 shelter sites. Our budget also includes key interventions outside our traditional shelter infrastructure, and those include $18 million over 2 years to continue the vehicle triage center in the Bayview and to open and operate a second site. $4.1 million to maintain approximately 55 slots of safe sleep in Bayview and in the Mission. $4 million to maintain operations of the cabin program at 33 Goff, and $24 million in state and federal funding to exit operations at 3 non-congregate hotel shelters with approximately 300 private rooms. And then in our last section, I'm going to pivot to HSH's infrastructure and staffing. So as you can see from the chart here, HSH is proposing a total of 60 new permanent FTEs over 2 years, reflected as 29 total FTEs given the decrease of 31 temporary COVID staff positions. Currently, the department has 179 permanent FTEs and 37 temporary FTEs. Our total operating positions are 217 FTEs. This year, the department has hired 94 positions and made 65 promotions. However, we continue to have significant turnover. We've consistently had approximately 25% staff turnover rate and chronic understaffing since the founding of the department. Yes, sir. They're cheering for us. So the proposed budget seeks to right-size the department and enhance our effectiveness in service delivery. Exit interviews with staff tell us that unsustainable workload and understaffing are the primary reasons for leaving. Although people feel supported by their colleagues and managers, they're not confident HSH will receive the staffing resources we need to operate sustainably. And I know that I've talked to many of you about this, but as someone who came from a pretty adequately resourced department, I've noted that there are just lots of gaps. Staff are working many, many, many hours. It's not a sustainable environment. I'm really concerned about my executive team and all of the people who are working under them. And so I really just implore you to listen to this. And I know you're hearing it from a lot of people, but this department has been under-resourced since its inception. So despite record hiring, our vacancies remain high with 33 vacant positions as of May 2022. And the issue is not just with filling the current vacancies, it's also a matter of our department having significant gaps in staffing infrastructure. And that kind of perpetuates this cycle of high burnout, turnover, and vacancies. We need to address both the vacancies, but also these major gaps in our current staffing model to stabilize the department and improve our delivery of services. Without filling these key gaps with new positions, we're going to continue to burn out the existing staff, leading to greater vacancies. And with that in mind, we're requesting these 60 new positions to keep pace with the threefold expansion of our system over the last few years. There are 4 new HR positions proposed to support a greater effort to hire and retain existing staff. This increase in staffing will help HSH provide a better work environment for the staff, more efficient resources to our providers, and more effective programs for people experiencing homelessness. The proposed new positions provide critical infrastructure